Okay, everyone, time for another song title poem. I'm just gonna start reading and then have a little discussion about life afterwards. Okay, I call this one a small man. It's hard finding one's place in life because as time goes by, new challenges present themselves to sadly prevent any relief to fill your heart with the strength to deal with past issues that still eat away at you, keeping the depression mentally fresh to the point it's difficult remembering what it was like to be truly happy with fear, sorrow, and rage on the other side of life in order to discover some temporary solace. Living like those in the movies isn't a healthy dream because everyone on set has to cover up all their imperfections to look good for the audience with a baby face complexion, bright eyes, and an amazing hairstyle that would cost a fortune. However, we love it deep down as it gives us an escape, said, from our not always great lives. So with a small slice of paradise to distract us, said said when we can't sleep or things get slow. One reason why we can never find peace is all the whispering voices that we notice from strangers in whatever routines make up our days. In some community where people said don't care much and said about how others are in pain because those said just above all always say stay down where you belong, like trying to make a difference is foolishness and just ends up being another brick in the wall that divides society. Think about your oldest relatives sitting on the old front porch, said doing nothing but enjoying their days without thinking much about having modern luxuries like very hot and cold water or some fancy large television. Said because they would rather dance that old country waltz, said that gave them comfort when any money was scarce enough to make a simple glass of strawberry tea taste like a very fine wine. Said wanting too many material items is bad because there will never be enough to quell the soul twister bred from capitalism that makes living in the sunlight impossible from having a screen within reach at all times of the day, and it's possible for loving in the moonlight. It said with a big barrage of artificial lights to keep the fun going. But slowly it feels like staying alive like happy humans is but a memory. Sure, there will always there are ways to keep the illusion alive because anytime you need some loving, you can call some people in the same boat for comfort, or perhaps you try somebody else who doesn't know about how much said much about all the baggage you carry from looking for the wonderful world of romance you heard about during the younger days. But there is a chance that anyone new said will want to be just friends immune to real love. No matter where you go, will say, "Heaven only knows what we're here for." But this is awful with so much that has gone wrong with limited reward. Said like when you look in the heart of a rose, you know there are only so many beats left, and the April showers have long departed to make room for all the intensity that spo- intensity of summer that spoils flowers, even if they get plenty of water 2 times a day with shade. Said it takes more than being the eternal troubadour from some unknown place with a new way of thinking. He said as there's ample information to form individual opinions instead of living on a street of dreams where the neighbors are zealous nightmares that foolishly believe said they have more answers said than you know. It said, yet don't want to admit sorrow plagues them. It said, and haven't had good sunshine cake in a very long time. Such people may say what needs now is love, but it has to be their kind of love no matter what happens. It said, everything is sweet and lovely despite spreading bitter thoughts that cause agony for anyone who feels unworthy to be among happy people, similar to the coming home party for some soldier who didn't see much action. However, aren't you glad you able to make choices freely? It's not being an outsider, as I live that way every day. Said, when I'm feeling sad, good music helps the most because it allows me to sit in the shadows of my room or I can't help but wonder if the world left me behind for some reason, and where I'm bound isn't going to reveal itself unless something instead tells me said the journey already taken was worth it for this poor prisoner of love gone wrong. Nighttime can be a problem, said said when I can't sleep because I have no one to say goodnight, sweetheart, or when a nightmare releases its grip. Not even the shadows tell me it's all right now because I feel said great surges of adrenaline in a silent house, reminding me I'm a lonesome little raindrop meant to dry up in this world that doesn't care enough about how the neighborhood children won't grow up with purpose. My writing helps because it said it gets tough keeping my troubles to myself. However, if somebody wants to see what lurks in my heart and mind, it said that really helps since it's nice for others to come to the ball for those also wanting to be heard. If I leave some back to the light, then I'll be satisfied with life, albeit knowing it'll take a lot of really tough work for myself to finally escape the viper of desolation. I wonder if anyone will really take my work to heart, as I wait for the song without a name, said that I know to inspire me to look into an artist to find their message, said, and take me over the rainbow of music, said, to a place where everything makes sense, said, leave me satisfied knowing people feel the same way whenever a new song came on the radio, filling their hearts and minds with stardust to create the base for dreams. No matter what happens, I believe in tomorrow not being so frightening as long as I keep those who remind me of better times. Said, well, I'm not going to ask you to tiptoe to the tulips with me. It said, yet I'm glad to have such support, and all I ask is to not forget about me, because being lonely is bad, knowing others have given up. So till we meet again, keep me in your heart like you are always in mine. So that lovely little number was inspired by the discography of Tiny Tim. Um, Someone made a request and said with little bit of a list, and I'm thinking, well, let me try this guy because I vaguely know who said a little bit about him, and you know, some of his tracks were a little bit hard to use because one, there's only so much I actually could look up because Wikipedia didn't really have much, so I had to kind of bounce back between that and YouTube to find all the tracks, and just you just never know what everything is because like I said it might be from an artist. So I'm thinking, I said let's see what this guy is going to be. Um, and strange thing is that a lot of people have actually heard his song. It said "Loving in the Sun." It said "Living in the Sunlight, Loving in the Moonlight" during the pilot episode of SpongeBob when he has to when he's feeding all the anchovies. It just basically they started to go there, and if you don't know much about Tiny Tim when he sings it, he sounds very much like a woman. And I know some men can actually sing like women very well. And if you were essentially just listening to it from like the radio or in the next room, it's like okay, which person was the actual woman? So you just never know who could actually hit certain high notes to sound differently. Um, but yeah, this is definitely was kind of a personal thing because other than the cat I said I showed in the previous video, I really don't have anyone for backup you know in all the times because most of the time if I'm doing this, my grandparents that I live with are downstairs doing something else, or so I'm doing this a bit. I said doing this kind of early in the morning. They're still it said they're fast asleep, so there's really no one I could really say, hey, could you help me do something? And even if I can get a hold of someone, you never know when schedules are going to line up because life isn't like something you would see on TV, said, or in the movies where you always have the friends that look so perfect. But to me, that's just toxic because it's because no one is always going to look that perfect. First thing in the morning, it would be almost like you literally see someone waking up, you know, and they don't even, especially if it's a man, they probably don't even have, I said, all the stubble that they grew from the previous day. It's almost like they don't really seem to have any of the imperfections. Everyone else kind of has. So it's just kind of like said, hey, look how perfect we are, even after a total disaster, or just we slept really hard, after a very difficult day, yet we still look like we literally said really just stepped out of the makeup trailer. And that's just kind of strange because you never know. Because sometimes they always will show people looking a little too perfect, and like okay, it's been there, but man, at least you do have the 5 o'clock, shadow to kind of say, hey, this is going there. But if you were to see like a woman that normally has a very distinct hairstyle, and maybe it's like a very sunny place, that with a lot of wind, it's like the hair barely even moves. So you really just don't want to be, someone that always says that, and that's what a lot of religious people would say is that if you want to find, the path or something, it said you have to basically drink our kind of Kool Aid, rather than finding something else. It's just kind of like the idea would say, well, this thing is still like cherry or something. Said yes, but we actually prefer normal cherry. You're drinking wild cherry, which to most people barely tastes any different, anyways. Just the fact that it's our way or the highway. But yet, even people that seem to be having a good time, preaching their little message, is that there are times when they literally feel like there is no escape from whatever trials they're from. It's like someone that could be on the verge of losing their job, homes, everything is like it's like, yeah, we just keep on praying, we just keep on praying, and yes, eventually someone might actually show up, but you never know when that's going to be, or if someone was like, fine, we'll help them. It's like, yeah, so we could have helped you, with it, was said, before you went under. So you just never know what it's going to be like in life, because some people will always kind of cling to that hope, and it's like, okay, you're not going to fix a broken bone by just praying about that. If you literally let it, a broken bone that's protruded right through the skin, it's going to get infected. It said eventually I could kind of cut that off in some kind of capacity. You're not going to heal. You're not going to heal them with faith. And to say, poof, you're going to heal like Wolverine or Deadpool. So take everything with a grain of salt, and I hope everyone enjoys February. Not sure when I'll have something else there, because I'm trying to make a list of a couple things um, to have it, and I'm just not entirely sure if I want to try anything with my cat again. So, but all the same, have everyone have a very good one.